Hey, happy Monday, everyone. Hope you are doing well. It is a new week. I'm back at work, and it is a beautiful day today. So I am so happy to be back. Happy to be back at work. A lot of people disagree when they have a time off, but it is what it is. We have to make the best of it. So I am happy to be back at work, and this is In the Raw, unscripted, unpracticed, unedited conversation. And today I want to start a topic on the place of God's presence. And this is called Mi Casa es Su Casa. And so let me kind of get into it and you'll find out why I'm calling it that. But it's about God's presence. So the phrase Mi Casa es Su Casa is a very well known in American culture, actually. Almost anyone, whether they speak Spanish or not, will know the meaning of this phrase. And it's been made famous in many different movies, works of literature, and even in everyday conversation. It's a way to say, you are welcomed in my home. So we're going to talk about the importance of providing a place for God's presence in our lives. The importance in telling him, mi casa es su casa. And there's a story in the Bible of a man that he's particularly unknown. He's a nobody of his time. And God sometimes will use a nobody to do great things, as we will see in this story. And this story begins like this. King David, after failed attempts to return the ark to its home, he decides to take the ark to the house of this man named Obed-Edom, who without a fear or doubt in his heart welcomed a symbol of utter importance for the people of Israel. He knew it represented the very presence of the Lord his God. So who is this man Obed-Edom? It seems as if he comes out of nowhere. Like, where did he come from? But the truth is that God has chosen him for a very specific and special task to teach us something today. But before we go into what the story of Obed-Edom is or means, we need to establish something about the ark. We need to understand the ark. When God dealt with man in the beginning, he looked for different places on earth to dwell with man, such as the Garden of Eden, the tabernacles and temples. And in the tabernacles and temples, the presence of God was represented by this thing called the Ark of the Covenant. It is very important that we understand the significance of the Ark. You might have heard about it. If you're not very familiar with the Bible, you might have heard of it like in the movies, the Indiana Jones movies, right? The Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark. They're looking for the ark. And that's what this is. And so it's important that we understand the significance of this ark. And we find the story in Exodus 25. God gives Moses detailed instructions on how to build this Ark of the Covenant and what its purpose would be. And if you read Exodus 25 verses 10 to 22, it gives all the details, the dimensions, and the materials to be used, and why they were building, and how they would have to carry it, and how they would have to transport it, and and what must go inside the ark, and all the details. I'm not going to read it because it's very long, but it's Exodus 25 verses 10 to 22, and it gives an account, a detailed account on how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to function, and materials and everything. And one of the things that God told Moses is, when you are transporting this ark, it cannot be touched by anyone. So he gave them instructions on how to build these poles that they would carry it. They would touch the poles, but they couldn't touch the actual ark. If anybody did, then they would die, because it was God's presence. So now back to Obed-Edom. Who is this unknown person? Well, we can find out about him and why God chose him for this very important task. And, in order to do that, we need to also know the events prior to the ark's arrival at his house, at Obed Edom's house. So the first thing that we need to understand or we need to know is that the ark was stolen. 1 Samuel 4:11 says, also the ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. So basically, when Israel went out to battle, they would take this ark with them, and the ark, it would represent God's presence, and it would help them win the battle. Having God's presence there. So the first 11 verses in 1 Samuel chapter 4, they tell the story of how the ark was captured or stolen by the Philistines during a battle. The Israelites had already been defeated by the Philistines once. And the Bible says that 4,000 men had been killed in that battle. The elders were trying to think of a plan or strategy to defeat the Philistines in the next battle. They get an idea. They say, why don't we just bring out the Ark of the Covenant and take it with us to battle? The Ark's presence will give us the victory. To make that long story short, the Philistines defeated the Israelites again and took the Ark. And you can read all about this in 1 Samuel 4. So the Israelites did not follow God's instructions regarding the Ark. And the enemy took the advantage of that negligence. When we don't follow God's instructions, we allow the enemy to come and steal away God's presence from our lives. That's the lesson here that we can learn. Many Christians have lost God's presence in their lives. The enemy comes and steals the fellowship that is enjoyed with the presence of God. He specializes in distracting us and drawing us away from God's presence. And when that happens, we become vulnerable and defeated in every aspect of our lives. But there's good news, because with God, there's always good news. And we're going to talk about that in the next video. The good news after the ark was stolen. And then we'll finish talking about what happened with this man, Obed Edom, and his role in all of this. All right? So I hope you have an amazing week. It's the start of the week. Hope your week goes well, and we will talk to you soon.